Welcome back to the Slushy and Film Podcast. I'm Nick, as always, and holy crap, what an episode I have planned for us today. Spider-Man Brand New Day is out in the theaters. I have seen it, and I have so many thoughts on this incredible Spider-Man film. The fourth rendition of Spider-Man done by Tom Holland, and is it maybe just the best one yet? And what does this mean for the MCU moving forward? Let's roll. Thank you, as always, for all your support and your love for the Slushy and Film Podcast, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or getting any of this content through TikTok. I genuinely, and I'm just so happy and so grateful for all the support and all the love. And look, my last episode was obviously all about the Odyssey and the unbelievable film done by Christopher Nolan. But we have shifted gears and we are talking about Spider-Man Brand New Day, the fourth Tom Holland Spider-Man film, obviously starring Zendaya, Jacob Batalon. We have a lot of people returning, and I'm going to dive into all spoiler-related items here in a little bit. So if you've not seen the movie, do not keep watching or listening, because I almost just gave away something that the movie obviously gives away, but they don't in the previews. So I had to be really, really careful with that. But let me just first start off by saying that I think this movie is so good. I think this movie is incredibly well done. I think this movie is, outside of the Odyssey, my favorite movie so far this year. Let's just talk about box office alone. It's got the second biggest opening weekend of all time. In fact, I think that may have changed, and it's now the first biggest opening of all time in the box office. It's already hit $1 billion made. That's insane, by the way. No movie's done that since Endgame back in 2019, I want to say. This is a 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10 movie. Look, I don't give anything a 10 out of 10. Maybe the Odyssey was a 10 out of 10. This is, for me, recency bias alone. I'm actually going to go see this movie again the day after I'm recording this. So actually, this podcast is dropping early for you guys because I wanted to get this out there sooner than the Friday that I normally release episodes. So this is coming out on a Wednesday, recorded on a Tuesday, but the day this comes out, I'm actually seeing the movie again with some friends. So I'm really excited for that because I'm hoping I feel the same way leaving the theater the second time as I did the first time. So I think this has so many memorable scenes. I think that Tom Holland has now fully solidified himself as the best Spider-Man, and that's no shame to Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield. And I think this movie kind of stands alone when you're comparing this to the other three Tom Holland films, Homecoming, No Way Home, and Far From Home. I think Brand New Day kind of has its own feel to it, as obviously he's a little bit older, and this is a much more adult film, I guess, adult feeling vibe from Tom Holland's Spider-Man. And I'm going to get into my pros. I'm going to get into my one major con, and I don't really even blame the movie for it, but it's important that I talk about that. But just some basic pros, like this is a movie obviously set in New York City. I love that we don't leave New York City. We're there the whole time. It's a very grounded film. It feels like we have our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, which I feel like the first three films necessarily didn't feel like that, but that's not in a bad way. I just think that is how they had John Watts, the director of the first three, had the movies going. This, not John Watts who directed this film. We get a much more grounded Spider-Man. And I'm very much here for it. I think this is maybe Tom Holland's best performance of any movie he's ever done. I think he gives some very strong acting scenes, especially during some of the emotional scenes that Tom Holland's required to take part in. Whether he's talking to MJ in scenes, Ned in a scene, Jean Grey in some scenes, even his aunt. I think that he gives really strong. I think he's a really strong actor, and Spider-Man just fits him so well. the more I watch him as Spider-Man, the more I just love him as Spider-Man. Uh, from a comic perspective, I loved all the random villains in the first, 20 minutes. Some people really didn't like that montage, but they were trying to give us what the last 4 years have looked like, which I really, really appreciated. I love the Punisher. So John Bernthal's character, the Punisher. If you have not seen the Punisher show, this was done by Netflix. It's now on Disney Plus. It's only 2 seasons. If you have no idea who the Punisher is, or if you know who he is but you've never seen the show, you should definitely go back and watch the show. I think that Frank, the Punisher, is a breath of fresh air for the movie. I love his relationship with Spider-Man / Peter Parker throughout the movie. Obviously, the emotional roller coaster that even Frank has to go on in the movie, and some of the parental pieces that Frank takes on for Spider-Man and for Tom Holland and for Peter Parker in the movie. I think that the Punisher worked very, very well in the movie. I was a little nervous when they were announcing like all these people to be in the film, both villains and non-villains, and I saw that they were going to have the Punisher in it, and I was like a little nervous because I didn't really know what to expect about that. But I think John Bernthal's character worked beautifully. I love the Punisher as a character. Honestly, a super dynamic character, a character that I think people probably don't look at. And I think they look at him in a certain way if they don't really know much about him as a character. But if you watch the show, you kind of would start to kind of feel some of like the emotions towards him and why he is how he is and what he has gained and what he has lost over those 2 seasons. So that was just a plug for the Punisher. Didn't even mean to do that, but I really like the Punisher in this film. I think it's great. I think the action is super solid. I think we have some unbelievable sequences with Spider-Man. The end fight for Spider-Man against the Hand is unbelievable. I loved his fight with Scorpion early on in the movie, even though it was technically kind of Jean. I like his fight with the Hulk a lot. One of my biggest cons, not my biggest con, but one of my more cons, the Hulk, I feel like we get the Hulk in so many films now. I think one of the pluses is we finally got like a better Hulk, a bigger, stronger, more intense Hulk. We haven't seen that in a long time, so I can really appreciate that. I get why Bruce Banner and the Hulk are in the film, um, but that's part of the time where it starts to take away from that neighborhood feel, even though we are still in New York. But still really, really well done with that. Look, Marvel's given us a couple things. One thing from Marvel now is that Yelena, played by Florence Pugh, is pretty much is obviously the new Black Widow. She is one of the big leaders within the MCU going forward. Marvel has made that very, very clear now, especially now with Spider-Man, as she makes her appearances in this as well. And pretty much they're showing us she's taken over as the Black Widow. She's taken over as one of the faces of the new Avengers, maybe the face of the new Avengers, and obviously one of the main faces for the MCU moving forward. And I think Florence Pugh is fantastic. Not even just in this movie, just in general for the MCU. I think she's a great character. I think she's a fantastic actress, and she seems really committed to this role as Yelena. And I think that the MCU is making a very wise choice going forward with her as one of the main characters and one of the people they're really going to focus on. And I'm very much here for that. And so I like her little few roles and few moments that she has in Spider-Man. I think she's an important piece to that overarching MCU puzzle that Kevin Feige's come out and even said, like, we're, not dumbing it down, but we are simplifying some things. We're restarting some things. After Spider-Man, we have Doomsday. After Doomsday, we wait a year. We have Secret Wars, and then we have Ghost Rider and Black Panther 3 in 2028. And that's really all that's it movie-wise that's on the docket right now for Marvel, because we're pretty much going to reset. I think that there's a world where we definitely get a few more Tom Holland Spider-Man films. I mean, we better, because like just with the amount of money Sony and Marvel are making off of Spider-Man, I mean, it's been out only a couple days. I mean, the genuine love that Tom Holland has for that character and how much he cares about Spider-Man and wanting to do Spider-Man justice and make very well done movies. All 4 of his movies are really good. I mean, I think they're all in the 90s of like Rotten Tomatoes and high 90s in audience score. Like, people love his movies, right? And like Spider-Man's a character that a ton of people can recognize with and can relate to, and outside of maybe like Batman, Spider-Man probably is the most well-known superhero out of the entire world, DC or Marvel. And so anytime Spider-Man is getting a film, people tend to gravitate towards the theaters, as we've seen so far with Spider-Man Brand New Day. Um, let's talk a little bit about Jean Grey. She's somebody that is played by Sadie Sink. If you haven't seen Sadie Sink, she's obviously plays Max in Stranger Things, one of my favorite TV shows, even though they botched the ending. Sorry, Stranger Things. But let's talk about Sadie Sink as Jean Grey. One of the pieces Marvel has obviously introduced and we've known was coming are the X-Men. As they are casting the X-Men, we know there's a future X-Men movie on the docket from Marvel. I don't think that's till maybe 2029, so we have a minute. But Sadie Sink is officially Jean Grey. She obviously plays a more villainous role at the beginning as she tries to figure some things out in terms of what's happened to her sister. Um, ultimately becoming way more powerful than she thought she ever could be. But Peter and slash Spider-Man, seeing the good in her and working to obviously tell her it's okay and that like loss is a part of life and revenge necessarily isn't always the answer. And really, really well done. I like her character a lot. The first half of the film is Spider-Man finding this character. And then the second half of the film, it shifts a little bit and he's fighting still that character. But there's a little bit more to it than just that. That's when it starts to get a little bit bigger than just like your Spider-Man neighborhood vibe. But I really, really like Jean Grey or Sadie Sink as Jean Grey. Obviously Jean Grey is an extremely, I think, Omega level mutant in terms of her telepathic powers. For the entire film, she can only jump from mind to mind if they're within a 33-foot radius. She learns that she can do way more than that towards the end of the film, and she shows that. And I love what the MCU is doing with that, and they're showing that this is now a part of like this is a direction we are headed with the X-Men, while also still giving Spider-Man's movie. Unfortunately, we're just not in a place in the MCU where Spider-Man can just have like this super grounded film the entire time with nothing to do with where it has nothing to do with the overarching MCU like universe, right? We're at a place now where Doomsday and Secret Wars are right around the corner, and there's just Marvel's just been doing a lot over the last couple of years and not necessarily doing it well, and so Spider-Man still has to be a part of that. But in my opinion, they did well at balancing the neighborhood Spider-Man, our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, also with pieces of keeping the MCU moving forward, keeping Spider-Man moving forward, learning about a couple more characters, building out a couple more characters, and still leaving us with hope that there's, we're going to see more of Tom Holland as Spider-Man. And I think we will. I unfortunately do have a con, and I don't blame them. This sounds really dumb. I don't blame the movie for this con. I blame Marvel for this con, or Kevin Feige and the MCU universe and their multiverse route that they were trying to take that really hasn't worked out. Obviously, at the end of No Way Home, if you've never seen No Way Home, that's on you. It's like 5 years old now. If you've seen No Way Home, you obviously are aware that nobody remembers Peter Parker as Spider-Man. That's including MJ and Ned. And one of my favorite parts, or one of my favorite things about the original 3 Tom Holland films is the relationship between Ned, MJ, and Peter. I think it is maybe the strongest piece to the Spider-Man films. And we are going into this 4th film knowing that MJ and Ned do not know Peter Parker, do not know of a Peter Parker, do not know Peter Parker Spider-Man, none of that. That was really hard to grasp. And I think it was kind of hard for the movie to include MJ and Ned, because you're obviously trying to continue MJ, Ned, and Peter's relationship. But obviously, Peter's goal is wanting them to remember who he is, but him really struggling with that. And we get some really emotional scenes, especially between MJ and Peter, that were really strong, in my opinion. We don't get a ton. We get some between Ned and Peter, but not a ton. And I wish we had more. I wish by the end of the film we had more of a resolution. I think by the end of the film now, my theory is that they remember who he is due to certain situations, excuse me, that have happened. I don't know how, obviously, if I'm right or not. They leave that very much on a cliffhanger. A part of me thinks Jean unlocked these memories that were not there originally when she does what she does at the end, which you need to see the film. I'm not just gonna like obviously spoil every single detail. Um, it just stinks that like MJ, Ned, and Peter don't have that relationship that they have in the first three movies, or the relationship they built in those movies. I just really loved that aspect of the films, and I think that they all work really well together, just from an acting perspective, even. Um, and again, I don't blame the movie, right? I blame Marvel and the MCU and Kevin Feige and the direction they were trying to take. And I think they've listened to a lot of that criticism and put that into this movie, and I think that's why it is so successful. But also, I still wish that we got more um, MJ, Ned, and Peter, and we focused even more on them. There was just a lot to do in 2.5 hours, but I just wish that that relationship we focused on even more. But I think at the end, they do remember who he is. Um, but I just like obviously that's not like quote unquote confirmed. So look, it's a really good movie. It's a really good movie, and it's outside of the Odyssey. My favorite. I loved Project Hail Mary too this year, but Spider Man's up there with one of my favorites of the year easily. I mean, obviously, I'm a comic book movie person, so like I'm obviously biased. Obviously, I just saw it, so recency bias is a thing. In no way, shape, or form am I denying that. But I thought this movie was absolutely phenomenal. Genuinely, I thought it was phenomenal. I think it's the best Marvel movie since, gosh, what, Infinity War? I don't even know if that's a hot take. There's been so many. I think it's the best project since Infinity War. I think we finally are getting just this grounded piece of Spider-Man is what I've wanted, and they finally have done it. And a huge shout out to like Zendaya and Tom Holland and the director and Kevin Feige and everybody who came to the table and really like put all their this love and effort into Spider-Man, because like now I could sit here and I could probably say that like Spider-Man is 100% my favorite comic book character after this movie. And like I don't think I mentioned this. I rewatched some of the Spider-Man films. Not all of them, but I rewatched especially I rewatched No Way Home, the most recent Tom Holland before this one. And I remember walking out on No Way Home back when it came out in like 2021 and thinking that was unbelievable how good that movie was. And then I rewatched it at home and like really locked in and paid attention to it. And then the movie was over and I sat there and I was like, it's good, but it's not nearly as good as I thought it was. And I thought it was kind of clunky. I thought it was like a lot was going on. I skipped through a couple scenes even. I really struggled with the movie. I mean, it was originally a top 5 Marvel film for me, and I mean, it's dropped now to probably a top 10, maybe even top 15, which that may be a hot take, and I'll own that hot take. And I know Brand New Day's way more recent, so I haven't put that in my rankings just yet. But when I'm comparing these movies, or No Way Home, geez, Brand New Day to all Tom Holland's films and Andrew Garfield's and Tobey Maguire's, there's probably only one, maybe two, I would put above Brand New Day. That's actually what I'm going to do now. Like, normally I just talk about this stuff, and we've hit about 20 minutes, and I call it a day. But I also wanted to talk about the other Spider-Man movies, and I'm going to pretty much put Brand New Day up against all the Spider-Man movies, including the Spider-Verse films. Also, my dogs are in here, so sorry in advance if you hear barking, because one of my dogs has really struggled today. It's been a bad day for that dog, but we're okay. She's doing okay. Um, so I'm going to put Spider-Man up, Brand New Day up against the other films. I'm going to start with Tom Holland's, and I'm just going to work backwards. So the first Tom Holland Homecoming, Brand New Day, not even comparing, just like one versus the other. Like, I'm taking Brand New Day over Homecoming. I'm taking Brand New Day over No Way Home. I'm so sorry. And I'm taking Brand New Day over Far From Home. So right now I'm taking Brand New Day as the best Tom Holland Spider-Man movie he's made. Um, and that's because I just watched No Way Home, like I said, and then I went to see Brand New Day, and I was like, Brand New Day's better than No Way Home. Brand New Day has issues. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it's better than No Way Home. No Way Home has bigger issues, and it's not as well done as I thought it was. Um, I think just everybody was caught up in the cameo fest that No Way Home was, and it was just too much. And to me, it actually didn't work nearly as well as I thought it did, which is crazy. I'm probably in the minority there, and I'll own that. That's okay. But I would take Brand New Day over any of the other Tom Holland films. If you go to the Andrew Garfield's movies, The Amazing Spider-Man 1, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I hate The Amazing Spider-Man 2, so that is what it is. And I'm not a huge fan of, honestly, The Amazing Spider-Man 1. However, I like Andrew Garfield. I like Emma Stone, but I'm taking Brand New Day over both those films as well. Now, the Tobey Maguire films. Spider-Man 3, obviously, with Venom and Sandman. I'm taking Brand New Day over that. Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock is the first Spider-Man movie I'm taking over Brand New Day. Spider-Man 2, for me, is a classic. Spider-Man 2 is, to me, the best. Well, the Spider-Verse movies, I know I just, because they're animated, I don't think about them. So I'm not talking about these when I mention like all the live action Spider-Mans right now. For the live action Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2 is the best Spider-Man, in my opinion. I absolutely love it. I rewatched it not too long ago, and I was like, wow, this is so good. Um, and then Spider-Man 1, obviously with Green Goblin. I like that one a lot too, but I'm taking Brand New Day over Spider-Man 1. This is like, I like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans, by the way. So just based on all those films, that's, what is that? 5, 8 Spider-Mans compared. So we've had 9 live action Spider-Man films, and I would put Brand New Day at 2. I'd put Spider-Man 2 at 1, Brand New Day at 2, maybe Spider-Man 1 at 3, No Way Home at 4. I don't know, Far From Home at 5. After that, I don't really care. It doesn't matter. So Brand New Day's great, guys. Like, we have had an unbelievable July. We're in August now. We've had an unbelievable July. Like, are you serious right now? Like, July as a month for film has been fantastic. It's had, in my opinion, the best 2 movies of the year. And we still have potential great films that are coming out this year. I'm still not super high on Doomsday, but obviously I'm super high on Dune. And it sounds like Spider-Man's actually going to get an IMAX slot here in a couple days. So more people are even going to go see that film. That movie's going to make a ton of money, and it's already made a ton of money. It's going to make a ton of more money. Shout out to Tom Holland. Shout out to Zendaya. Shout out to everybody involved in Spider-Man Brand New Day project. Shout out to the camera work. I loved the action. I loved all the characters. I loved the direction. I loved the story. Like, and you find yourself rooting for MJ, Ned, and Peter. And outside of maybe wanting a little bit more of that, I really don't have much to say on this film negatively. I know I mentioned the Hulk and Bruce Banner. He just always seems to find his way in there. But I love the way they did the Hulk when the Hulk was around. I mean, it's a 9, 9.5 out of 10. It's so good. Even if you're not a comic book person, like, you should definitely go see this film. Even if you're not a Marvel person, you should totally go see this. Like, it's no secret, like, what I do for a career. If you know me, you know, like, I work in a school setting, and I texted, one of my students the morning after I saw the film, and that person's one of the biggest Spider-Man fans I've ever met in my life. And like, and they were talking about how they cried multiple times during the film, and how it was like the best thing they've ever seen. I talked to another student, one of their favorite movies they've ever seen. Like, this has definitely struck a chord with the audience, and with Spider-Man fans, and with non-Spider-Man fans. And for me, it's made Spider-Man my favorite superhero character. Like, it's incredibly well done. It's a really good story. It's a really freaking good movie. And I hope everybody gets the chance to see it, and I can't wait to see it again. So, look, we're at 25 minutes. I could talk about this all day. Like, that's why I'm really excited for future episodes when it comes to some of the stuff we're doing on this podcast, because I'm going to have some guests going forward, which I'm really excited about. Also, I'm actually in focus today. I noticed last week I wasn't even in focus, which is crazy considering I have the screen staring at me so I can see myself. And I never noticed I wasn't in focus. So I apologize for that. if you keep if you keep finding the stuff on, whether it's on TikTok or whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you are listening on Spotify, like, again, all I can do is just constantly thank you for just love and support. And this podcast isn't about like gaining thousands and you know hundreds of thousands of followers or whatever. Like, this podcast is just about like having fun, talking about something that I just have a passion for and a love for, and hopefully some people enjoy listening or watching, right? And if you're one of those people, like, thank you so much. I have a great time, and I just am going to continue to do this now that we've rebranded a little bit, and I've kind of gone more niche in terms of like what I like to talk about. Obviously, like I said, I'm not being critical anymore. I'm just, did I enjoy the film or not? And Spider-Man's one of those films that I 100% enjoyed, and I'm so glad I got to experience that in theaters without having anything spoiled. So, as always, weekly episodes, tons of content on the on the TikTok page. Like, comment, subscribe, download, share, all that super fun stuff. If you have any ideas for what I should do for future episodes, please, please, please let me know. And don't forget that the DCU Lanterns is coming out here very, very shortly, within the next like week and a half. Or I think about week and a half. And don't forget that I'm doing individual podcast episodes after each episode drops with my father-in-law, as we talk about the Lanterns show, the Lanterns lore, and maybe a little bit where that show is headed and how that sets up the DCU and Man of Tomorrow moving forward. So a lot of super fun stuff on the docket. On the next episode, I'm sure I'll talk about Spider-Man again, since I'm seeing it again. And I hope that I have everything positive to say like I did for this episode. So thank you, as always, for watching and for listening, and I'll see everybody next time.